This dude is an absolute beast. This man is a god that destroys this beast. That is how you set up a character for game adaptations, alright? You just let everyone know who's top dog, who's second top dog, and then just keep going down the list. Now, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 says, nah, everyone's crazy. This game might be my favorite thing right now, considering I have completed every single achievement and S-ranked every single mission on the hardest difficulty, and I gotta be honest, some of you might even be wondering what this is because it's only sold 1 million copies, and I know that sounds like a lot, but when you think about it in comparison to other games that have sold nearly like 20 times that, yeah, it's not that impressive. Now, obviously the game is based on the One Piece anime, but the gameplay is actually based on the Dynasty Warriors franchise, which dates all the way back to like the early 2000s, and even spawning like some Gundam series versions, which was interesting. I think in 2007 there was Gundam Musou Special, and then in 2008 there was Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2, and then PS3, and then Xbox 360 came around, and then there was Dynasty Warriors Gundam 1, 2, and 3 that was melding all sorts of different Gundam series together in universes, and it was just, there was so many Gundams in that game that were from different universes. It was just a confusing mess, and the story, you might as well just throw it out the window because it was just the most uncanon thing I've ever played. Now, the original Dynasty Warriors was based on the Three Kingdoms in China, which was about, I think, the Wu, Shu, and Wei dynasty, and you would pick between all of those dynasties, and then they would have certain generals and leaders, and then as you progress through the game, you unlock more generals and leaders, but then it's just, this is about China. I don't really care about China, let alone old-timey China. It's like, this is not really for me, my man. The gameplay was still fun as shit, I just didn't really care about, uniting China. That's just not really my gameplay, Or I should say, not really my storyline that I really care about. Now, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 is a weird addition to the Dynasty Warriors franchise, considering it's always been about China and uniting the dynasties, but seeing a One Piece get an adaptation is not really that amazing. It follows the gameplay from One Piece 1, 2, and 3, which obviously it's just, they're adding characters and stuff, so it's continuing the arc from the anime, and it's more canon than anything, but it's how they set these characters up is why this is a cool game. So let's talk about why this works. At the beginning of this video, I stated that Odin was a monster of a character who has enormous strength. But then I showed you Gold Roger and called him a god that absolutely destroys Odin and his enormous strength. This is how we set the stage for power levels and gauging what and who is an interesting character. See, even though it's based on an anime and most of the moves and abilities and how they act and present themselves is going to be canon based to the anime, we have to take a look at how you can make that interesting for a game. If we take a look at this guy, right? He's a clown. He's a fucking clown. How do you make this cool as shit? How do you make this work? You give him a motherfucking clown car and he just drives around and throws bombs. This is the funniest shit to play Buggy the Clown. He's absolutely hilarious and I love him in this game. It's so goofy, it's so weird, and that's how you do it. You would think that because he's so goofy, he's a trash ass character. Nah, son, this dude decimates people in a matter of seconds. I could S rank this whole game on Buggy. Like that, I could play this whole game with just Buggy. Not weird enough for you? Okay, let's do this. Let's take two sword users in the One Piece game and put them side by side next to each other. We got Zoro, who once cut a dude that is the size of like 3 mountains in half. This blind guy named Fujitora can slice the air and summon meteors from the sky. Now Zoro can cut those meteors in half. They are two sides of the same coin with very different powers and power levels. It's actually insane whenever you look at it, where you're like, this guy can summon meteors. This guy has no special powers other than he's just a monster of a character and can destroy somebody with buffs. Like, how do you mess that up? You don't. It's impossible. You actually can't. You see, in the One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 game, everything is essentially broken just like every other Dynasty Warriors game. Every character is broken with insane abilities and weapons. So picking a guy who is quote-unquote meta makes kind of zero sense, considering that everyone can nuke 1,000 enemies in an instant. So for me, picking a character is more based on looks or backstory and just kind of what their kit has, and that's honestly the best way to pick a character for me anyway. Now, just because all the characters are essentially broken and sort of do the same combinations of X, X, Y, X, 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 Y, just mashing X and Y in concession, that doesn't mean that there isn't any diversity. See, Pirate Warriors 4 uses a type system where each character has an archetype. You have sky types, power types, technique types, and speed types. You're pretty much mashing buttons and combinations to get 6 sick moves to come out, but there's a specific way you do it with each type. Let's take a Kainu who is classified as a power type. He is slow as shit, but hits like Zeus on steroids. Your playstyle with him is to just annihilate everything with massive AoEs and to target leaders with your devastating ultimate attacks. But since he's so slow, you kinda have to watch your positioning and not get lost in the sauce, and that is very easy to do when playing One Piece Pirate Warriors 4. I've definitely had missions where I just got lost in destroying waves of enemies and just forgot about the timer to S rank missions, and you have to position a character like a Kainu close to the objectives because he's so slow. He doesn't have great stamina recovery, and he also doesn't have great stamina usage either, and his run speed is slow. So the idea with him is to position yourself where there's loads and loads of enemies to where you can charge all of your attacks and your full burst, but you also need to be close enough to your objective so that way you can get it done as quickly as possible so you can get that S rank for your mission. Now a Sky type is very different from the Power type. Their playstyle is to chain combo hordes of enemies with aerial attacks and constantly juggle their opponents until they die. A character like Rob Lucci, for example, he's a Sky type, but also is a Logia type, I think. No, it's not Logia. It's whatever the other devil fruit power is, where you turn into an animal. So on the ground, he can turn into a giant man-sized furry cheetah man that has enormous strength, but in the air, he's just Rob Lucci, where he can dash around and has superhuman speed, and also his stamina regen is a lot faster, his stamina usage is more conservative, and he can fly indefinitely in full burst, which makes him just a lot more of a danger in the air considering he gets a damage buff on aerial attacks. So instead of focusing on using all of your like RB abilities, you can actually just use combos and be pretty effective with Rob Lucci, or really any Sky type for that matter. And just to be clear, it's not like a super hard combo type situation like Marvel vs. Capcom or Street Fighter or any kind of fighting game level stuff. Your whole combo list consists of hitting X and Y a number of times and ending with Y to perform a finisher called a charge attack, which that's more or less for Sky types. That's sort of what they do, is chain combo over and over using the dash button to reset and then get the chain combo going more and more. And the charge attacks have varying properties depending on your character. Some can have some kind of crowd control properties, or they can create giant AoEs destroying everything in sight. So play around with characters and test their abilities out and see what works for you. This kind of formula works in almost every single Dynasty Warriors game, but One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 gets a bit more absurd considering it's based on an anime with absurd powers. It really wouldn't be fair if I didn't criticize it even just a little bit, but I'm gonna be pretty fucking harsh to be honest, because these two things annoy the hell out of me when it comes to these games. The first issue I have with Pirate Warriors 4 is the camera. What the fuck is this camera? Every time you lock onto a character, you're just inside someone's asshole because the walls are all enclosed in it. There's buildings everywhere. You end up inside of a wall and you just don't get to look at anything cool because you're doing all these fancy high-flying moves, but it never really matters because you're looking at almost nothing 90% of the time because of how chaotic it is. And I don't even know how they would fix this issue because zooming out the camera would make the problem worse, and if you zoom in more, well, then you're just losing a lot of perspective at this point. So there's not a lot of fucking problem solving for this. This is just bad design in general. It needs to be reworked and looked at to some degree. The second issue I have, which can be solved, and I don't know why it isn't, is the HUD. What the fuck is this HUD? I got the mission objective in the top right, I got my enemies or allies in the bottom left, I got the minimap on the bottom right, and then I got shit popping up every time I defeat an enemy or take a territory. It's like, just tone it back. Tone it back by like 90%. And just let me either turn off the HUD or turn off notifications or shrink everything down to just a minimal size that I don't care about, because I don't need to look at my objective. I read the mission objective before I went into the fucking mission. I don't need to see that shit 24/7. The minimap, I totally understand, and there is a way to resize it, so kudos to that, but everything else, get rid of it. I don't need it. It's seriously obscuring the beauty of this game, of the destruction and chaos that I'm causing, and that's all I want to look at. I don't need to see anything else. That's kind of everything I want to say. This game is incredibly fun, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. If you're just looking for brain-dead, stupid fun, this is what that game is. I'm not saying it's going to change your life or turn you into a pro gamer or anything, but it's just dumb fun. That's all it is. Don't expect the world of it because it is just supposed to be dumb fun. That's all. But that's it. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.